Hey friends, it's David again, and building off of last week's video where I shared how to prepare how to boondock in your RV, today I'm going to talk to you guys about 10 myths about RV boondocking, just to help dispel some of that and hopefully make a lot of you more comfortable with the prospect of going out and boondocking in your RV, because it is such an incredible way to camp an RV, and it is definitely our favorite way. Right, sweetie girl? Is it our favorite way? Oh, okay. The first myth about boondocking is that it's unsafe out here, and if you go camping out in the national forests or on BLM land alone, you're either gonna get robbed or murdered, and that's just simply not true. You know, we've been doing this for 4 years now, and the entire time we have felt completely safe except for just a few occasions. And thankfully, I think that it was just our own insecurities that caused us to feel unsafe, because nothing ended up happening. And on top of that, there are, things that you can do to protect yourself and make yourself feel more safe. There are security cameras that you can get that can connect to a mobile hotspot. And, so when you're away from your RV, you can still keep an eye on it through those cameras. And we also live in the United States, for any Americans watching right now, so we can own firearms. So you can always arm yourself to protect yourself as well. And then if you're not comfortable with firearms, then there's always mace, bear spray, a baseball bat, something else that you can have on hand to make yourself feel safer while boondocking. But to ease any of your fears, for the most part, people that come out into the national forests are just out here to recreate. They're here to do what we're doing also, to enjoy the forest. I just think it's very rare that you're gonna find someone that goes, way out into the middle of nowhere searching for someone to rob or harm. It just doesn't really make much sense, because there's not very many people out here. And so most of the people that we've met out here are very nice, very kind, and they're just trying to enjoy the great outdoors too. The next myth is that you will be all alone out in a boondocking location. And what we found is, for the most part, that's not entirely true. Sure, sometimes when we go out to the very, very remote areas, we'll be completely alone, but even then, people will still drive by our campsite. There will be hikers that hike by. There are just so many people that want to come out into the national forests or out into the deserts, and just explore the area too. And also, there are a ton of boondocking spaces that are what I would call a sort of shared camping area, where there's just a ton of RVs all boondocking in the same spot. So if you are more social, then those areas would work really well for you, because there will be a lot of other RVers that you can connect with. If you enjoy that RV park feel of other people camping near you, then those shared boondocking areas are for you. And there are a ton of those in places like Lake Havasu City or Quartzsite, Arizona, where there's just a ton of other RVers in a shared camping location. Now, before we get to the rest of the myths, I want to really quickly tell you about this video's sponsor, and that is 3-in-1's RV Care Window and Track Dry Lube. 3-in-1's Window and Track Dry Lube dries to a clear, long-lasting, solid film of lubricant to keep windows and doors running smoothly. It doesn't attract dirt or debris and safeguards against rust and corrosion. It's safe for use on metal, wood, vinyl, and most plastics. Now, what we primarily use this stuff for is to keep this big back sliding window from sticking closed. And all we do is we flip out the straw here and spray the stuff into the side tracks and this bottom seal here, and it will keep that window from sticking closed, and it allows it to slide smoothly. And again, what makes this stuff so great is that it is a dry lubricant. So that means that once it dries, it will not collect any dirt or debris. And another myth, sort of building off of the last one, is that you will be way out in the boonies, completely away from civilization, and that is where the boondocking is. And again, that's simply not true. In our current site, where I would say we're fairly alone here, aside from the occasional person, coming down this road and past our campsite. We're only 20 miles from the nearest town that has a big grocery store, and that's not straight line distance too. The main part of that is a winding national forest road that switchbacks along the mountains. So once you get to the highway, we're actually probably only 10 miles from the nearest, actual city. And that's how a lot of the boondocking places that we go to are. You're really not that far from civilization, even though once you enter the national forest and the trees sort of close around you, you feel like you're really far from civilization. But, if you need to go to the grocery store, if you need to find a laundromat, or, want to go out to a restaurant or a bar, typically at the boondocking locations that we've been to, there's always one of those within driving distance for the most part. Now, certainly you can absolutely find boondocking locations out in the middle of nowhere, but if you don't want to go that far from civilization, you absolutely can find plenty of boondocking sites near a town or city. Another big myth or misconception about boondocking is that it's boring. You are out, not connected to electricity or anything. You're just out in nature, all alone for the most part. It's quiet. It might be a little lonely, and it might be boring. But like I said in the last one, you're probably not too far from civilization. And at this campsite that we're in, for instance, you can see there's a lake right down there, and it's not too far of a drive for us, maybe 25-30 minutes to get down to the lake. And we've actually gone down there with my brother Thomas and his wife Amanda. They've brought their dog Violet, and we drove down there and we had a couple of lake days. They brought the paddle boards, and it was so much fun. And usually if you're boondocking, there's typically some pretty cool hikes to go on nearby. I mean, you are out in nature in the national forest after all. So usually there's some historical thing, a hike, a lookout that is within driving distance. If you are into nature at all or American history, then you will not be bored boondocking if you know how to find things to do. Just a quick Google search of things to do in the Wenatchee National Forest, or whatever national forest you may be staying in, and trust me, you will have something to do nearby. And if all else fails, bring yourself a nice book, some movies to watch for maybe those down days, or if it's raining or when the weather is bad. The next myth is that there's no internet when you're boondocking. And I can tell you right now that that one is very not true. It's actually getting easier and easier to find camping locations that have decent cellular signal. And if you have cell signal, then you can do what we do, and you can set your phone plan up to have hotspot data on it, so you can connect to your phone using, a laptop, a tablet, anything like that. And you can then connect those devices to the internet, or you can also purchase a hotspot like we have through Verizon, this one. And both of those have 15 gigabytes of data on them. And then my wife Rose's phone has 15 gigabytes of data on it. So we have 45 gigabytes total that we use to run our business online and just do everything that we need to. We need a pretty decent amount of data, and we always need cell signal to do what we need to do online. And again, in the 4 years that we have been boondocking, we've been on the road as full-time RVers, it's very rare that we stay at a site that does not have cell signal. Sometimes you are in an area where there's just no cell signal around, and it can be difficult in some parts of the country, but most of the time it's very easy for us to find that ideal site that has strong 4G cell signal. And there's actually a campsite finding app out called the DYRT, and if you sign up for the pro membership version of that, they have a map overlay of cell phone carriers. So, you know, you can look at sort of a Google Maps type online map of an area, and then you can click their cell signal overlay layer, and it will actually show you where there is cell signal around. And you know, couple that with their map overlays for BLM land, national forest land, and national park land, you can see exactly where you might want to camp in a national forest, and then also overlay that cell signal layer on top. And that is just so incredibly useful. And I can actually get you guys a 90-day free trial to the DYRT. There'll be a link in the video description below for the free trial to that pro version. The next myth is that you have to be hardcore to be an RV boondocker, and that's not true. I mean, I know how or why a lot of people might think that before they boondock for the first time, because there's so much more you need to worry about. You know, you need to worry about your batteries, you need to worry about your water consumption, and you also need to worry about, you know, taking your RV down unpaved, sometimes not very frequently traveled dirt roads, and that can be very daunting for a lot of people that are used to having unlimited electricity, unlimited water, and paved roads at an RV park, not to mention sites that they can reserve, whereas out here you know it's first come first serve. So when you arrive at a campsite, it might be taken, and that has happened to us many times. So there is some decent uncertainty involved in RV boondocking, but trust me, you do not have to be hardcore to do this. There is definitely a learning curve when you first start, and you know, you might learn some things the hard way, but that's why you begin boondocking at very easy sites where there's a lot of other people nearby. They're not very far from town or near a dump station, a place to get water, food, all that stuff. You can absolutely find plenty of boondocking sites, even near RV parks, so that, you know, if while you're out boondocking and things don't work out, you can then go back to the RV park or a campground to where it's more comfortable. I will admit, though, that a lot of the sites that Ro and I stay at, you do have to be pretty adventurous and a little hardcore to get to them. Like this site that we're on right now is at the literal top of a mountain, and we had to drag our travel trailer up a steep incline the whole way. It's just up, up, up. And you know, it's the road is very bumpy. It's not very well traveled, and it is only one lane also. And at some points you kind of do get a little close to the edge, like a cliff, and you know, if you just don't look over the cliff as you're driving past it. But it's not like it's unsafe or anything, but certainly a lot of the places that we like to go to, you gotta be a little more hardcore to get to them, because that means there's less people out here, and we like our solitude. The next myth is that finding free camping is very difficult, and I actually think that might have been true before the internet, but now there are so many apps, so many websites, and Google Satellite View that makes finding free camping very easy. Now what Ro and I do is we just go to Google Satellite and we just start following forest roads, like just dragging the map, following these forest roads until we find a campsite. Like it's very clear that there is a campsite there, a cleared out area, and then we know, hey, there's a spot that we can drop our trailer at, and then we'll just take the truck and we'll just drive all around the national forest, you know, in the area that we want to be camping in. And we use Google Maps in conjunction with the DYRT, which is what the app I told you about earlier, because they have map overlays that are just so useful to us. You know, the cell signal overlay, and then than the National Forest, National Park, BLM overlays. So we know that we are definitely in federal land where we're allowed to camp. And then also the DYRT Pro allows you to download offline maps, so that if you do lose cell signal while you are searching for a site, or out camping or whatever, if you've downloaded that map area, then you don't need cell signal anymore. And yeah, the DYRT is just such an awesome camping app, and we use it all the time. Again, there's a 90-day free trial to their pro version in the link in the video description below. The next myth is that you won't have any electricity while you're out here. And for us, you're looking at our electricity source right now. We've got this solar panel on the ground, and then 4 more solar panels up on the roof of our travel trailer that provide us with enough electricity for us to do everything we want to, and even run our refrigerator on electricity during the day. At night, we do have to shift it over to propane, because otherwise it would draw our batteries down way too much. But with just a little bit of preparation, maybe an expansion solar panel on the ground, and even a generator, you can still have electricity while you're out boondocking. Sure, it's not unlimited electricity like in an RV park or a campground, but with just some small modifications to your electrical consumption, or some big additions to a solar system like a rooftop system that we have, you can still have electricity while boondocking. And another myth is that meal preparation and cooking is a lot more difficult while boondocking. We get this question actually a lot. Like, what do we eat while we're out here? What type of meals do we still prepare when we are out camping and boondocking? And the answer to that is, for the most part, the same stuff as when we had a full kitchen in our home, or if we stay in an RV park and have unlimited water. While we're boondocking, I will say that meal prep for us is typically even easier. Cooking is easier because we have found a repertoire of single skillet easy meals that are still delicious and nutritious. Stuff like huevos rancheros, for instance. It is delicious. It's very easy to prepare, and it can all be cooked in one skillet. And the reason single skillet meals are so important to us is because we have limited water. And so the less dishes that we generate, the less dirty pots, dirty pans, all that stuff, then the further we can stretch our limited water. But we still have a stove, we still have an oven, and we have 2 30-pound propane bottles so that we have plenty of propane to do all the cooking that we want to do while we're out here. So yes, we still cook full meals, but we do try to stick to ones that are simpler, quicker, and a single skillet. And then the last myth is that boondocking just isn't worth the added hassle. And for us, that is big time not true. Boondocking for us is our favorite way to RV and camp, and actually it's the reason we became full-time RVers in the first place. You're just so much more one with nature. It's so much more beautiful out in the national forests, and in the winter when we're in the BLM lands in the deserts of Arizona and Southern California. It's so gorgeous out here. We love for the most part, the solitude we get. And sweetie girl, come here. We get to leave Sweetie off leash when we're alone in these dispersed campgrounds, and there's a ton of space for her to run around in too. And so I know that she loves dispersed camping and boondocking way more than being in campgrounds. And yeah, you guys, sure, there's a little more preparation involved. You've got limited resources like electricity and water, and finding free camping might be a little more difficult than just calling up RV parks and reserving sites, which means also when you're dispersed camping, there is that uncertainty that the site might be taken. But all of the added things that you need to do in preparation for boondocking is so worth it. So if you haven't given it a try, I highly suggest it. But that's all for this video. I hope that these, busting these myths makes some of you guys give RV boondocking a try. But that's all for me, and I will see you guys next time. Sweetie girl, you wanna say bye? We'll say bye to him? Sweetie Pea.